At the moment, I'm still not 100% on what I've come up with. I don't know. I just don't feel like it's where it needs to be. It's not what I originally envisioned. Ever wanted to know what goes on behind a rebrand project or the transformation an organization takes when changing their brand identity and repositioning themselves to focus on a more targeted audience or business direction? Well, come join us as we take you through a real-life rebrand of an organization that needs assistance to build a professional brand identity system. We are Black Bear Creative, a family-run design studio based in Australia, and we specialize in creating brand identities for companies big and small. So over the years, we have developed a framework called the 4-step brand design process, which we'll be using to help out our friends at SpaceLab Brazil. This mini-series will show you SpaceLab's rebrand journey from the initial discovery meetings to concept logo design and all the way through to the final implementation. So if you're interested in brand identity design or want to learn more about our framework, then stay tuned and enjoy. Hey everyone, hope you're doing well and welcome to another episode of the real life brand identity process. So to recap, we've completed our discovery session, research, prototyping, and presented the first round of concepts to SpaceLab. So now we need to wait on the feedback and then from that start refining the concepts for round 2. Okay, so we've just gotten the feedback from SpaceLab from the first initial presentation. And yeah, they sent it through in a very inclusive, detailed document, which is super useful. A lot of times when you get feedback from clients, it can be very vague and not very helpful. So I'm glad they sent through some really good feedback. Basically, it's all sort of broken down for each concept and sort of giving a bit of a explanation and some context from each individual stakeholder in the project. So now it's time to go through it and see what they said. So the key takeaways from SpaceLab's feedback from the presentation is the logo type from concept 1 seems to be the favorite, but it can use some refinements, especially around the corners and the lettering. Concept 2 seems to be the less favorite. Concept 3, on the logo mark, the rings in the design sort of make it look like satin, which they don't want it to look like, and we want to represent Earth. They like the idea of incorporating the logo symbol from concept 3 somehow into concept 1, and they also like to see more contrast within the color palette of concept 1. The SL responsive logo mark from concept 1 can be improved, and they possibly want to see some national colors in the color palette. So how do you get the most out of client feedback? The first thing is not to take it personally and focus on the project goals. You got to remember design is subjective, meaning that everyone has their own thoughts and feelings about the same thing, like color, shape, style, fonts. For example, if we all look at a famous painting, we'll all have different perspectives of that particular artwork. We might like it, we might not like it, all for various reasons. So whenever a client doesn't like something, don't take it personally. It's not an attack on you. Just make sure whatever opinions they have, they all align to the actual project goals. The second thing, which I've learned over time and which I didn't do as a junior designer, but as you evolve as a designer, you sort of realize that you don't need to include every opinion from the feedback into the redesign. Every suggestion doesn't need to be included in the redesign. What I do is try to find the most common themes or the common things that are in the feedback. So things that are brought up multiple times, maybe said in different ways, but they all sort of focus on the same point. You need to remember you can't design for everyone. So you need to distill the feedback so you can just focus on refining the design to solve the initial project goals. And you also need to use your judgment to keep the design functional for future use. I might experiment with client ideas, but if that means sacrificing the core functionality of the brand identity, then there's no point including it in the updated version. So I finished refining the concepts from the first presentation, and I didn't want to include concept 2. Based on the feedback, it was the least favorite one, so I don't think it's worth including it in there. And I'm just going to focus on the first 2 and possibly another sort of version of that. At the moment, I'm still not 100% on what I've come up with. I don't know, I just don't feel like it's where it needs to be. It's not what I originally envisioned for the sort of final concepts, so I'm scheduled to take a break, go away for a bit. So before sending these new concepts, I think I'm just going to take a break. I think I've got a bit of a mental block at the moment, and just nothing's really sort of flowing the way I want it to. So see how we go. When I come back, look over everything with some fresh eyes and just see how I feel. So let's see how we go. Okay, so I'm back from my time off. Didn't really get up too much because of COVID, but I feel a lot more fresh mentally, and now coming back and looking at this with fresh eyes, I realize that I'm definitely going into the wrong direction. So I'm going to strip everything back and look at some more visual reference material and try to get inspired. Okay, so I'm feeling much more confident in these new concepts, and I've added them into the presentation. So in these concepts, I feel like I managed to fix those main issues brought up by SpaceLab, and I think these concepts are a lot stronger, while still being functional, responsive, and nailing the project goals. So now all I need to do is add them into the presentation and tee up a meeting with the client. So the feedback has come back for the round 2 of revisions, and it looks like concept 1 is the identity they want to go with. So we've got a winner. I think they want to explore some other color combinations and maybe explore some different ways we can implement the logo mark or the icon, which they've given some of their own suggestions and I actually really like, and I think that can work as well. So I'm going to go through my Pantone color swatch book and jump into Illustrator and come up with some solutions. So the whole reason why we color match the different color options in the color palettes to actual colors in Pantone swatch books is to help the client keep their brand colors consistent within all their marketing material. And we'll sort of dig into this more in the next episode in the implementation phase. So we've finished with the refinements and we've settled with some color options. I've explored some examples using a mixture of warm tones, cool tones to enhance the contrast, and sort of limiting each color palette to just 4 colors each. I didn't want to bombard them with too many options, and also with the implementation, I don't want everything they print in the future to cost them a fortune as well. So you gotta remember, the more colors, the more it can cost down the line. I also wanted to ensure that these options still followed the initial project goals and didn't veer away from the brand messaging and positioning. So now it's time to send it off to the client and hopefully get final approval so we can start with the implementation phase. So let's see what happens. After this, we can start creating assets and creating a style guide. So that's it for this episode. Keep an eye out for episode 4 on implementation. We're going to go through some cool things like creating the actual individual logo assets, the style guide, and some other bits and bobs. So thank you again for watching. Hopefully you found this video useful. If you did, give it a like, a thumbs up, and subscribe to the channel for more creative content. Keep up to date with all things Black Bear Creative by following us on our socials. Just look up Black Bear Creative and you'll see it. And until then, I'll see you guys in the next one.